I'm extremely honored and proud to be here with my colleagues back here. This is not an easy thing to do, you know. I mean, we all have our lives. We're all busy. There's all things going on, but it matters. It really matters. I want to tell you just a little bit about Kim Coleman. It's so fun having her in the house. Has any of you seen her videos? Have you caught any of Kim's videos or Facebook videos, right? I mean, she is the epitome of the happy warrior. She is fighting nonstop to make government more efficient, nonstop to keep your taxes low. We seem to think that you can do more with your money than the government can, and so we want to keep it that way. And please support Kim, those of you that she represents. She's amazing. I'm pleased and honored for her to be a colleague. Now, Kip has asked me to speak just a little bit about a pretty major problem that we've got in our state and also a major opportunity. How many of you are here engaged because you're concerned about your children or your grandchildren? Right? I mean, we got some children and grandchildren here in the audience. It's great to see that. You know, we teach our children that a promise is a promise, right? Promise is a promise. We need to keep our promises, right? Well, in 1976, now that's not too long ago, some of you might remember that. 1976, the federal government made a promise to the state of Utah. Now, they had already broken one promise. They said, at statehood, we're going to treat you just like everybody else. And treating you like everybody else, we're going to let you govern your own lands, and you can determine your own destiny, and you can manage your own forests so they're not managed for maximum combustion, and you can't see the mountains for the entire summer. But they broke that promise. In 1976, they said, we're going to keep all your land. Now, everyone east of the Rockies has the exact same promise, and the federal government kept it. For the states west of the Rockies, they said, we're not going to keep that promise, but we have a substitute promise for you. And the substitute promise is we're going to give you a payment in lieu of the taxes you would otherwise collect if we treated you equally. A payment in lieu of taxes. It's called PILT. And it's supposed to be just as good. Has anyone ever had a time off in lieu? You work a Saturday and then you take a Monday off, right? In lieu, by definition, means something just as good as. Something different but of equal value. And so they said in 1976, we're going to keep your land, but we're going to give you a payment in lieu of something just as good as the taxes you would otherwise collect. Now, why this matters? We fund government with three ways. We have income tax, sales tax, and property tax. Education we fund almost predominantly from property tax. Now, in Utah, anybody know approximately how much taxable land we have in Utah, percentage-wise? About 20%. About 20% of the land in Utah is taxable. The rest of it, no revenue. Now, the federal government made the promise, and they said, we're going to give you something just as good as the taxes we're withholding from you. We get, on the 20% of the land that is taxable, we get more taxable revenue in just 2 months on the 20% of the land that's taxable to fund schools and police and roads and fire than we've gotten from the federal government on 70% of our land in over 20 years. Now, you know, I went to public school, I took regular math, but they said they were going to give us a promise that's just as good as, right? Just as equal. We get more in 2 months on 20% than we receive from the federal government on 70% of our land in 20 years. So I want to show you a little example right here. This is my big stick. Now, if Mia Love took off a little early, I've got a solution for the bad days. You speak softly, carry a big stick, right? So this right here, this represents Garfield County, Utah. Okay, Garfield County, down where Bryce Canyon is, right? So Garfield County, this piece right here, this represents the land in Garfield County that's controlled by the Bureau of Land Management, the BLM, that's not taxable. Now this right here, this represents the land in Garfield County that's controlled by the U.S. Forest Service, that's also not taxable. This is the land in Garfield County that represents the National Park Service, also not taxable. Now this part right here is the state land in Garfield County that's also not taxable. And this little piece of the short end of the stick over here is the taxable land to fund education and fire and roads and health and human services in Garfield County. The children in Garfield County and throughout the state of Utah quite literally get the short end of the stick. Now I got to tell you about something that we're doing in Utah to work on this. This year, after 8 years of teaching on this, 8 years of working on this, Kip has been a warrior to help and educate on this as well. We had every Republican and every Democrat in the Utah House of Representatives co-sponsor a bill to determine what that taxable amount is so that we can get our federal partner and our good soon-to-be U.S. Senator and our other delegation in Washington to help us be treated equally so that our children don't get the short end of the stick. It was House Bill 357, and we're calculating the value of the taxable amount of our land so that our federal government can keep the promise that it made to us in 1976. Right now we get $35 million on 35 million acres. We get $3 billion a year on the 20%. I mean, just imagine what that does for mental health. Imagine what that does for education, for the STEM programs, the things that we need, that we talk about. We're not going to solve this problem until we solve the ability to govern ourselves, to determine our own destiny. The same thing the states east of the Rockies battled for and won. This is a battle we have to fight. There's just no other way that we get there from here. We have to go through this. And so I ask for your support. You can follow me and support our campaign at voteivory.com. And I ask you to reach out to your representatives at every level, local, state, national, and tell them this is something we need to fight passionately and diligently for. Our children deserve to be treated equally. They deserve not to have the short end of the stick into the future. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you so very much for what you're doing.